How's it going, guys? Today, I'm going to be featuring the Jean Bart, the Tier 7 Premium French battleship. Now, in this one, I thought I would do something a little different, and I would essentially go through my thought process throughout this match. I think this game was a pretty good example of battleship positioning, and also how to use your own detection to figure out where enemy destroyers are. As you can see in this one, there are 3 destroyers on the enemy team, and at the very beginning of the video, when we looked at the team composition, there was a division of a Summers, Kagero, and Mites. And ultimately, a double destroyer division is always going to be a problem, especially in a division with the Mites, that if it's able to sit behind an island and farm while the destroyers are spotting, our game won't exactly be fun and we won't last that long. Now, on this map, Land of Fire, we do have the middle spawn. Usually I see teams just lemming towards one side of the map, and instead of staying in the middle, they go to one side and ultimately they lose out on a valuable position. The middle spawn, although you are essentially in a position that you could be shot at from all flanks and in front of you, it does also provide you with crossfires. Now ultimately pushing in towards B, we are able to shoot out towards Alpha or Charlie. In this case, we can see ships at Charlie and they are pushing in, and being in the middle, we do have a crossfire and are able to shoot at their broadsides. Typically on this map, people use the islands at Charlie to push in on the outside, and that's exactly what the enemy team is doing. So as you can see, that enemy Z-10 pushing in, we have a perfect broadside. Now, even though we want to help focus on the Charlie side, we do see that on Alpha, there are battleships that are spotted, and that means that the destroyer division with the Mites is actually in the Bravo spawn, because divisions typically spawn together. Now that we have a fairly good idea of where the enemy division is and where both of their destroyers are, we do need to be very careful and try to pay attention to where we start getting shot from. I do believe the enemy Mites will start trying to farm us over an island, as cruisers do. So once we start getting focused by the Mites, we do need to try and figure out where we can position ourselves so that we aren't simply farmed out in the open. Now, as I predicted, because of all the ships that were spotted on the map, the enemy Mites is spotted north of Bravo, and we are also located, so that means the enemy destroyer division is somewhere closest to me, which, since our friendlies are kind of in between A and B on the left side there, we do know that the destroyers are somewhere in front of us. So now we do need to start disengaging and trying to find cover. Now as soon as I start reversing, a torpedo gets spotted behind me, and also now there is a bunch of torpedoes in front of me, so the prediction that we are essentially getting targeted by the enemy destroyers and mines is correct, and now we just need to figure out what best to do. Reversing to the back of the map is simply not in my blood, so I am going to actually push into Bravo and use this island right in front of me to essentially block myself from torpedoes from the destroyers. I know that they are somewhere in between Bravo and Charlie, so if I go to the left side, I should be relatively safe from torpedoes, and I will also be able to push up and try to help A. Now, something I want to point out on the map, at Charlie, we do have our friendly destroyer that is still contesting. Our friendly battleships on that side at the beginning decided to essentially not really support our friendlies, and they started off by running and or reversing. And now that the enemy team has pushed in so far, the enemy Mites is moving towards Charlie, so that means the enemy destroyer division is also heading that way. And for some reason, one of the battleships on the Charlie side finally decides to push in, and at this point it's far too late now that that's the strong push, and he's essentially just throwing his ship away. Our friendly destroyer that simply parked in the cap and didn't really move after noticing the entire enemy team pushing that cap has now died, and now those 2 battleships are left alone without any sort of destroyer support. One battleship's going to yellow in, and then it's just going to be the one battleship that is just parked behind the island. There's nothing really that I can do to help them at this point, and instead I start focusing the A cap and trying to help where our strong push is. If we can quickly dispatch the 2 enemy battleships on that side, then the friendlies on Alpha will start to come towards Bravo, and then we can have some support. Now that we've pretty much pushed into the middle of the map, we can make use of our entire firing range, and as you can see, the battleships that are running, for example this Vanguard, we do have his broadside because he is trying to angle towards our team that is pushing through Alpha. Now, as I get close to the cap, I notice that I am still located and torpedoes pass just in front of me. So I know there is still a destroyer that is closest to me instead of pushing to Charlie and possibly going after our battleships on that side. Now, using this island, I am able to protect myself from torpedoes like I was trying to at the beginning. Also, as the torpedoes pass me, I opened up the big map to try and get a better idea of where the destroyer launched those torpedoes from by getting a angle and trajectory of where those torpedoes are going. It's not typically something that I know players do, but for myself, knowing that I'm surrounded by destroyers, having a better idea of where destroyers are will ultimately help us find them. Now, the Summers was spotted on the other side very briefly, and I did push out to try and get him spotted and take as much health as I can as possible. Unfortunately, I don't have my reload booster here, so he is going to get away. I did chunk him for a good portion of his health, but now that he's smoking up, I also know there are torpedoes on the way. So as these torpedoes approach, there are a couple of things that I could have done. I could have gone forward to try and dodge these torpedoes, and ultimately, if I did, would put me in a position where I'm basically YOLOing in at that point, trying to dodge torpedoes. And as I'm pushing in, I'm going closer to the mines that also has torpedoes, and their Kagero was also spotted right next to the mines, so pushing in towards all of those ships with torpedoes was just a bad idea, so I simply keep reversing. Something I also pay attention to right now is the fact that I am still spotted, as my detection had shrunk after 20 seconds of firing. Staying spotted this long means that the Summers is no longer in his smoke and has continued to move north and to the left of Bravo Cap, so I am just going to keep reversing and trying to go unspotted so I can draw a line from my detection out to where I predict the destroyer is. And in doing this, we can pretty much figure out exactly where one of the destroyers are. We are still located, so we know that we are still the closest. Now, as soon as I go unspotted, I take a quick peek at Bravo, and now I know that the Summers is somewhere in the middle of the cap. I also need to be extremely careful because the Kagero again was last spotted by where the mines was, and he was heading towards Bravo from Charlie, and I am predicting there are torpedoes that are going to try and catch me as I reverse behind the island, so I start going forward. Now my prediction is correct, and the torpedoes do show up here, and we do barely dodge them because we knew that there were torpedoes on the way. Now as soon as I start pushing back in, the enemy Summers gets spotted, and he's pretty much where I thought he was going to be, in the middle of B-Cap, and for some reason he's not actually moving. I guess he just fell asleep. And now we do have our reload booster back up, and we do want to try and get rid of him as quickly as possible to even the score on destroyers, so that we each have a destroyer on our team. Getting rid of the Summers will allow us to essentially freely move around the map a little easier and not have to worry about 12 torpedoes from one destroyer. The enemy Kagero does start shooting at us, which is a huge mistake because now he has just given away his position to our entire team. And also, he's not really smoking up yet. He does start smoking up now, but it's far too late. I reload my main guns, and I'm able to chunk him for more than half of his HP. With the enemy Kagero that was spotted and shooting at us, I had a feeling that his torpedoes had reloaded, so the best thing we could do is sail away. However, if we decided to turn straight away from the Kagero, we would be giving broadside to the enemy battleships that pushed through Charlie. And instead of doing that, I actually turned to the right and tried to go towards Alpha as quickly as I can. And the Kagero actually predicted that I would turn away and give broadside to the enemy team. And ultimately, they were short and I was able to dodge them. Now that there are 3 enemy battleships chasing us and we are getting focused by the enemy team, we do need to try and disengage as quickly as possible, giving our team that pushed through Alpha and is now north of Bravo some time to actually get back towards the battle. With our team pushing back into Bravo, we do want to try and pay attention to what the enemy battleships do. Being out here at Alpha and our team pushing in towards Bravo, these battleships will have to make a decision on who to angle towards, and an example, this Zetan decides to angle towards our team pushing into Bravo because there are more battleships over there, and he can use this island to essentially evade our shells. Now, instead of continuing around Alpha and then going essentially behind our team, I am actually going to turn back south and try to put them in a crossfire so that they have to either angle towards myself or the friendlies that are pushing into Bravo. Also checking my messages because I got some hate mail from our friendly Lafudre that spawned on Charlie and essentially didn't really help the destroyer and hid behind the island the whole time, and then eventually had to run away and ended up dying because he got focused because he was the last one on that flank. Sent me a bunch of letters, but I don't really know what the letters meant. So if any of you have a good idea of what they are, let me know down in the comments. Anyway, as we turn back around and head south towards the enemy team, because they are angling towards our friendlies pushing through Bravo, we are able to shoot at broadsides. That D-Tin is a good example, and now we just pay attention to the Massachusetts and Amagi. We decide to shoot whoever is showing us the most broadside. As of right now, they are both slightly angled, but ultimately we'll have to make a decision soon. The Amagi is starting to turn in, and he is going broadside to the team at Bravo. And as he's angling towards us, the Massachusetts is angling towards our friendlies at Bravo, so we have a better target to shoot at. Unfortunately, we do get a bunch of overpens on that salvo, but the practice is there where we're essentially creating a crossfire. And now that we are pushing in, we do need to pay attention because we are located. And if I was the destroyer, I would have left through the bottom left of Bravo Cap as my team pushed in. And now that we know he's not spotted because our team has pushed in fairly close to Bravo, we know that he's not close to the cap and has made his way further south. We slowed down and turned to the right slightly, and that was enough to dodge the Kagero set of torpedoes. And now that he has launched them, we just simply go towards Bravo as quickly as we can and turn away from where we think the enemy destroyer is. We have our friendly Z-23 heading south, but this is the destroyer that spawned with us at B in the beginning. He made his way all the way around Alpha, and I'm not really sure I have faith in him to actually go and hunt down the destroyer. The Massachusetts basically is now in a 3 versus 1 and does eventually die. We turned this 4 versus 6 around, and now it's a 4 versus 1. I ping the Charlie Cap for a friendly battleship to go and capture. As I head into Bravo, by capturing Bravo and our friendly capturing Charlie, the enemy Kagero will have to come back and play the objective and torpedo us to win the game, which I think is going to be fairly impossible as we are all sailing away from him. I'm just gonna speed this up here as we're just going to essentially cap Bravo and then wait for the enemy destroyer to make a move and basically try to come after us and try to win the game. But anyway, so this game I think was a pretty good example of battleship positioning. We were able to use the middle spawn to try and get broadsides. It wasn't as effective as the Jean Bart isn't exactly that accurate. But if we had something like Alabama or Kansas, I'm sure we would have done a lot better shooting at those broadsides. Aside from that, as we were running away towards Alpha, we still tried to create those crossfires by going back south and forcing the enemy team to either angle towards us or towards our friendly battleships that pushed to Bravo. The other thing that I thought was worth mentioning was the fact that we were able to utilize our own detection to figure out where destroyers were, also using that island at Bravo to protect us from destroyers, and when needed we would push around and take pot shots at destroyers, dealing as much damage as we possibly could. Dealing damage to destroyers obviously will give you a lot of XP, so we do finish with 3300 base XP here, as well as 4 kills. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this game informative. And honestly, let me know if you guys have been using some of these tactics in your games, or if this is something entirely new to you. Also, let me know what you guys think of this informative video going into my thought process throughout a match. And let me know if you guys want to see more content like this, maybe for cruisers or destroyers in the future. But yeah, definitely let me know if you guys enjoy this type of commentary. Anyway, going into my build, Azur Lane Dunkirk, Flammable Cannoneer, Frontal Fire, Marksmanship, Master Mechanic, and Fight Fire with Fire. I use Kedrov here to get some turret traverse because the main battery reload, the debuff for turret traverse was increased, so now it's 15%, and ultimately I did want a little more turret traverse. And then I had Celiax to negate the debuff from Frontal Fire, so I keep the full AP damage at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe for more, and share it with friends, or leave a comment down below on other ships you want to see in the future, and if you like this type of commentary. But until next time, aloha.